Yesterday, 8 teams gathered here at Gamescom from 2 sides of the Atlantic, and we whittled them down to 6. By the end of today, we will have our inaugural Overwatch Atlantic Showdown champion. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Playoff Sunday. My name is Mitch Leslie, and yes, I'm not short, and no, I don't look like Tracer, so he will be back with us later on, and I will be hosting the desk to start things off. I am joined, of course, by Huck, Stir, and D-Man. And boys, what a day it was yesterday, Huck. We had some expected results, it's fair to say, but a few upsets thrown in the mix as well.
Yeah, and one of those big upsets was compLexity versus C9. I mean, they're a team that in the morning seemed really slow. They had a lot of trouble, and then they pulled it back. But overall, Team Envious still reigning strong, still undefeated so far.
I think that's pretty safe to say, Huck. They're looking very, very good. I mean, Stir as well, you talked about some possible strategies we might see appear yesterday. Towards the end of the day, we did start to see a bit more diversity. We saw the Mei come out of the mix. We saw the Ana used multiple times there as well. Some things that made you happy. But it seems that despite these as well, a lot of teams still managed to go back to what was tried and true, and sometimes the standard strategies paid off. But how did you feel seeing that Hanamura come out there yesterday?
That was great. We knew eventually one team was going to bring out the Hanamura or something a little bit awkward. I'm not even sure that it was bizarre enough to throw anybody off their game, because people have seen Mei on Hanamura before. We actually saw Rogue try it, and it was immediately tried right back in their face, so it's not like this strategy is unheard of. But I would definitely like to see some teams bring out some bizarre strategies today. We also saw, I can't remember quite who it was, it might have been Dignitas bringing out an Ana on Gibraltar, which was also really cool to see.
Yeah, it was a defensive Ana, wasn't that one?
Yes.
And everyone was saying, you were raving how impressed you were that sort of worked out. Lee, we're now down to 6 teams, of course. 2 teams went home yesterday, and commiserations to them. 1 from North America and 1 from Europe. What's your take on how both the regions are faring so far at this point in the tournament?
Yeah, I mean, we expected Dignitas, sadly, to go out. They've been in a slump. They still know they are in a slump, and obviously got to speak to them last night. They a little upset with it, obviously, but they knew what they knew. They kind of expected it. It wasn't unexpected. Obviously, Cloud9 going out, massive shocker, as Huck's already mentioned. compLexity, though, I mean, after getting absolutely whooped by Reunited, 14 minutes, done deal, both maps. That was incredible. But to see them come back, the mental strength they showed to come back against Cloud9, you know, obviously home rivals, they said going into it, you know, we've actually got really good performance against them, and we didn't believe it. But we should have.
Well, yeah.
They came out on top, and we'll see how it works out for them, because Gibraltar will be the first map today, something they were picking all day yesterday.
That's right. Only a couple teams going for that one as well, so it's going to be interesting to see Gibraltar being that first map up at this stage. And yeah, some mental fortitude from compLexity. We were looking to see that from them as well. It was pretty well known that they were down in the dumps after losing that first game, but you know, that kind of recovery, that's the stuff of champions to really pull back there as well. We talked about momentum yesterday and compLexity, how the two go hand in hand. But for those of you at home who maybe didn't get to see the action that went down yesterday, we do have a bit of a recap to show you how it all went down.
Welcome to the Overwatch Atlantic Showdown, live from Gamescom 2016.
What a way to start things off. Misfits Fnatic, it's going to be a bloodbath.
At the high ground, they're going to give it up. They're jumping down. Buzz has the death blossom, gets himself 2 kills. Stoop's going to redeem himself. An Earthshatter heading to the 90 to Cutie, picks up to himself. The payload is still moving, and Fnatic are going to close out the series.
Really the only man left here.
The internet hole just got himself a quad kill. Where did that come from?
Range. Now he goes diving in. Looks for Taimu, gets him down. Manages to find Tailspin as well. Both damage dealers picked up.
And it will be Envious that's going to take it 2-0 here in the end.
With this high ground right now, Taimu getting boosted in, able to get a kill on IDQD, taking down their DPS right at the beginning of this fight. Buzz is focused next, and they're firing at all the right targets.
What a weird situation here. Both teams getting sucked in by gravity. Soon gets himself 2. Not only 2, but 2 tanks. But here also falls.
Team Dignitas will be falling.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Reunited on the attack.
He had no business getting that many kills there.
Helpless Soundbarrier coming out of Cruz is able to stay alive. Not to mention the Earthshatter coming through. Unfix Balu. Both chime in and pick up kills. And even Winghaven gets the charge on a Joe Meister, and that just might be it.
against them. Rogue have so many options. This battle is turning worse and worse as it goes on. 2 people, 3 going down.
Might just have it as well. Wins gets himself a double. The Graviton Surge coming out there. King gets cut down. Rogue hold on, but only just. Will it be enough? It's going to be unfixed now on a duel. It's a battle to the death, but Win stays alive. What? No way! Overtime, so Broken on this point, they're going to win. But no, it looks like it's not working out for the Wind. Goes over the edge. You better believe it. It's reunited. Take the series 2-1.
Both these teams are on the cusp of leaving the tournament. Winston change from Harbour. They're going to go piling in. The Graviton Surge comes out. JKW Nicholas comes in. That is going to be it. compLexity take map number 1. Could we see compLexity doing it in a time here? Shot fall from up above. He's not contesting it. Get on the point. He jumps it down. He gets picked off. I can't believe this is happening. Grego comes through. Kaiko gets in there. It's happened.
And what a day it was. Just from the level of strain, I think you're hearing a lot of the casters' voices. Gives a good idea of exactly how high octane some of those matches were, gentlemen. I mean, towards the end of course, the day, seeing compLexity make that bounce back, we already talked about it there. The moment on Hanamura with Win, somehow an inexplicable 1v3, and still Rogue weren't able to keep it together. Of course, AKM with that nice little 4-man Dead Eye lead, not too bad as well.
Yeah, there were some incredible moments, and congrats to the OAP guys to get the highlights together. There were so many big moments. Obviously, the Hanamura moment that you and Stur covered was probably the biggest one. Wins coming out with, what, no hit points, basically, and getting that 1v3 was incredible. The Rogue Reunited match was probably the highlight for me, certainly from a European perspective. Obviously, you've got to look towards the compLexity Cloud9 because it was such a big upset. With a 6-minute 30 time to beat, after having such a poor showing against Rogue, for compLexity to come back and show the mental fortitude to get through the shuttle bay, which it looked like they were about to get stalled out in, and then just finish the map so quick against Shawfor, who was hovering up on high with Farah. They just ignored him.
Yeah, so the switch seemed to work fairly well at the start, but then people just, there wasn't a mercy combining there as well, and a lot of players just decided to sort of ignore it. So let's have a look at the brackets though as well, a bit more of an extended breakdown of how yesterday went. Stir, it all started off here with Fnatic getting that win over Misfits. They'll have to replay it later on, but Envious were definitely all over Dignitas in that match.
Yes, absolutely. Envious is still the favorite to win. There's been a lot of weird matches and upsets, but Team Envious has stayed solid. They've seemed to play just as well as they've always played. A little bit shaky here and there, but I think the gauntlet that some of the other teams are running through is going to prepare them for this final match.
And Huck, that match between Fnatic and Envious, I mean, on paper it's 0-2, but that Dorado map was very, very close between those teams.
Yeah, incredibly close. I think Fnatic, for where they are skill-wise, are playing better than what they should be, and that's really working for them,
right,
especially since we've already talked about momentum, being here in person. That's a huge factor, and they're going to need that because they're going up against Misfits, the team that they already beat, but it was so close. 2-1 victory. That's going to be a huge match for them coming in later.
So Fnatic need to continue to rise to the occasion, perhaps, as they have been so far. So let's have a look over at Group B here. Obviously, Reunited already getting through yesterday. We harped a little bit on those games, which were incredibly, incredibly good. Cloud9, their demise, gentlemen, I guess, sort of started off with that close series against Rogue.
That was really awkward. It felt like in that group, there were 3 teams that were very close, and then compLexity was just bottom of the barrel. But actually, compLexity pulled it back, and with that win, I think they're going to have a lot of momentum. I was talking to Tifa, their manager, this morning. She says that they're already happy with the results. They're going into this with high hopes, and they're very happy that Cloud9 basically are out of the tournament.
So Stur, obviously, we saw Harblue's face. He was very pleased after the game, and he said, I'm kind of glad we got to play against Cloud9. Now compLexity have to go up against Rogue, their winner, obviously qualifying through towards the semi-finals. What's your take on this one here as well? Seeing compLexity's improvement yesterday was drastic.
I think compLexity is too happy with the fact that they beat Cloud9. They're just ready to relax. They said they only wanted to come here if they won 1 game, they'd be happy. But
okay,
Rogue seems really hungry. It was a very close game against Reunited, and I think they want to show that they can win and that they can get to these finals.
I mean, let's start to unpack this game a little bit more, of course. It's got to be our next one. They're setting up on stage at the moment. Lee, you spoke to a lot of the Rogue players back at the takeover as well. We could see the passion or the drive that they had to win back then. Do you think you've seen a difference in this team? Do they seem much the same? Because speaking to them, they're very sensible in their approach to preparation in these big games.
I just spoke to them on stage, actually. I was just talking to them. They were, I wouldn't say angry. They were just a little miffed about their performance against Reunited. They felt they should have won the game. And honestly, it could have gone either way. It was literally on a knife edge at some moments throughout that game. Clearly coming into this one, they are big favorites against compLexity because of how close it was between Reunited. Reunited obviously absolutely spanked compLexity. It wasn't even a close. I mean, you don't finish Gibraltar in 3 minutes. That just doesn't happen. But it happened yesterday. So Rogue obviously feeling very confident, Gibraltar being the first map. Also, something that became very evident yesterday is that King of the Hill map seems to heavily favor European teams. I don't know what it is, but something seems to be there. Dignitas, while they got beaten 2-0 by Envious, and obviously clearly were awful on the payload map, on the King of the Hill, it could have gone their way. There were so many moments where it flipped at 99% to Envious's favor. Any thoughts on that, Huck? This maybe perceived advantage for EU guys on King of the Hill?
I just want to say mechanically, I feel like the EU teams are a little bit better. NA has an advantage because the metas are so different, and I feel like they have a wider pool to play against. I mean, we have a lot of these NA teams that are kind of EU, kind of NA. I mean, you look at Envious, they have 5 EU players and 1 NA player, but we count them as American. And I feel like that's kind of benefiting them because they get a wide range of practice, where EU teams, they mainly just practice within themselves.
A little bit insular, I guess, the environment for practice for them.
It might also have been the way it rolled out, because obviously during the beta, payload was the heavy favored route that everybody was taking, and then people started to embrace King of the Hill a lot more. A lot of people were like, oh, I don't like it. And then obviously before takeover, there was a lot of teams that suddenly embraced it. Now obviously the map pool came out. Now we're starting to see Capture Point coming out there. I think we're going to start to see teams start to specialize in that as well.
Right, well, gentlemen, we will get back onto the discussion about this match as well. But before we do that, it is time to meet the two teams over at the stage with Seltzer.
Thank you so much, Mitch. Without further ado, please let me bring out the first team playing today. We have compLexity. Blue, your team looks so happy and at peace today. You guys have to feel amazing over that after that victory over Cloud9 yesterday. I got to talk to you after the match. You seemed quite elated, but tell me, what happened after the victory, after the tournament ended yesterday? What did you and the team do?
We got food. We were all, yeah, I mean, we were exhausted after it, so we pretty much just, after it was done, we went back to the hotel, talked about the Rogue upcoming match, and just tried to get a good night's sleep and prepare for today.
Now, that sounds pretty pleasant, but we do have to remember that this is Gamescom. There's a lot going on here. There's parties, there's excitement, but you guys were not tempted. And I think that's something that we have to talk about a little bit when you talk about professional gaming. It looks like a very fun job. It looks like a job that seems very easy to people, but tell me, Harblu, how much work do you and your team put into this game?
Yeah, so there was like, you know, I think there was like a Twitch party or other stuff going on last night, but the fact that we knew we were playing this morning, it's like, hey, we got to get a good night's sleep here. Like we're coming here to compete and want to win. Like we can't like go out and do these other things just for fun that can somehow compromise us actually competing. So we're trying to do as much as possible. Like I said, I think I said yesterday, we normally play like 6 to 8 hours a day. So we just wanted to make sure we were fully prepared.
Yeah, just give me some insight into how you guys trained leading up to this tournament, what your hours are like, how you spend those hours, and sort of how much time you spend dedicated to this game to win.
So normally we scrim about 6 hours a day. Outside of that, we then normally either review our own VODs or watch like tournaments or other teams play. So I'd say in general, we put it normally about 8 hours total a day, and we normally don't have a day off either. So normally it's 7 days a week. Sometimes we'll have a day off here or there, but it pretty much is every day we're doing that.
Now, Harper, you've been playing competitive games for years. For how long have you been playing, and for how long has this been your training schedule?
So I've been playing since I was about 16, you could say, I guess, professionally, back in Team Fortress 2. But in that, it was normally only about 4 hours a night, and that was like 5 days a week. So it's a lot different than this. It's like a whole different environment than it was for that. So it's only been about 4 or 5 months now that we've been putting in this much effort, and it's a really different experience.
And as a player of a class-based FPS, old school style, what was it like when Overwatch came out, when you saw this game that you knew your skills would be so useful in once again, and then you got on this incredible team and you started doing so well?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty awesome. Like, back in the Team Fortress 2 community, when we saw Overwatch was being announced, there were a lot of players who were excited for it because we knew how much support Blizzard would put into a game. So a lot of us made the transition over, and to be on a top team in it now, and to be able to like utilize the skills that I worked on back in TF2, it's been pretty awesome.
And what would it mean for you guys to be able to win this match today, to go on to win this tournament?
I mean, it'd be a dream come true. Yeah, we're trying to take it one match at a time, so if we beat Rogue here, I think we play Envious next, which we've yet to beat them, but hey, it'd be the best time to beat them here on this tournament, so time for firsts.
Well, you're absolutely right. Let's take this one match at a time. Harblue, you and your team can take a seat, and we will bring out your opponent. The first match today is, of course, going to be compLexity versus Rogue. Now, Reinforce, it warms my heart to see you on this stage for many reasons, but one of them is because usually the transition is professional player into esports industry worker. But you seem to have taken the opposite path. You've worked in this industry, you've done a lot of behind the scenes. Now you're standing here on this stage, playing in one of the top teams. What has this transition been like for you?
It was kind of awkward, because I didn't expect it, but you know, you gotta be happy and satisfied with it.
Well, in addition to being a little bit behind the scenes before you joined this team, you were a content creator. You make videos, educational stuff about how you play. So how do you incorporate that into being a professional gamer? Do you still keep up with that?
Yeah, I mean, I still try to make videos and stuff, because being a professional player is all about, you know, being with the community and educating and doing all kind of stuff with the fans. So it's really fun for me, and I try to incorporate it in my daily life.
And what has been the hardest part of this transition?
Standing on stage, I guess. Kind of weird.
Is this the worst? This is the worst part of it for you?
Yeah, I mean, playing games is, you know, pretty fun and all. You know, you're in the game, but standing here doing interviews is kind of weird.
What would make it better?
You being taller.
Oh, I'll work on that. You know what? I'll work on that. You guys work on your game. Y'all can go take a seat. You can stop clapping on the analyst desk over there. And I'm going to hand it back to you guys so we can kick off our first match of the day here at the Overwatch Atlantic Showdown.
Johnny, never change, my friend, never change. Great interview there as well from both of the teams. It's good to hear Harblue's take on what it's been like is for him, a revival coming into Overwatch, a transition now, a game where he can use his sort of skills that he worked on for so long. But speaking of that, it's going to be Gibraltar first map here, Huck, and we've already seen compLexity on that map here, and I think we'd have to say we've been relatively impressed.
Yeah, they've done pretty good, but I still feel like it's a questionable choice for them. So far, every time they've won or lost, when they can, they pick Gibraltar. And Stir brought up the fact yesterday, actually, that it doesn't really suit them in any way. They have the Roadhog pick, but it really feels like, what was your comment?
It's not that it doesn't suit them, it's that it's very predictable at this point. I think they think Gibraltar is much more of their map than it actually is.
Like they won one time.
Yeah, they
and
won
they
one
think
time.
that like it's their savior or something.
Yeah, but everybody at this point knows that they're relying on Harblue. He's going to be throwing the Roadhog hooks. If that's that big of their team on Gibraltar, and everyone knows this at this point, why not kill him first and roll off of that?
Yes.
It's so straightforward, isn't it? It's one hook, one kill, easier push.
Yeah.
You know, that's essentially what he's trying to create.
And then everybody's hiding behind obstacles. They're not giving him line of sight. When they engage, they engage as 6, so he doesn't get those pickoffs.
Yeah, more than any other team right now, I'd say compLexity Gibraltar is the most predictable thing that we could see in this tournament.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's pre-selected for them, but it has been something they've played since Code 7, Gale Force, etc. For a long time. One thing I was interested in yesterday is they were the team that were using Tracer in defense, which was always a little unsure about that one. I mean, it worked out okay for them, but far from convincing. Obviously, Cloud9 posted a 6 minutes 30 time, so even that was fast. They beat it. But the 3 minutes 3 seconds time that Reunited posted, that's the one that needs to be looking at defending. They have to do better.
even positionally, it was really awkward. Didn't they like spread out super far? I feel like the whole team was just completely away from each other, and they had difficulty really accomplishing much with that. I think their defense, we're going to see some changes for sure, at least minimal.
Need to see some changes.
Yeah, we need to. And we even talked about the Ana, possibly. I personally don't think it's been working for any team here, and I don't expect to see it, but...
I think it can work, but there's no teams that have practiced it enough to understand why it works.
So, and Lucio and Zenyatta is just your go-to bread and butter.
Yeah,
I mean, this whole tournament.
It was Tavik I spoke to actually coming into this tournament. He was the guy that talked about the usage of Ana. They expect to bring it out. I expect to see it eventually coming out from Rogue in some sort of weird and wonderful way. Whether they have to break it out in this decider is obviously up for debate.
We've just seen the roster there for compLexity, and yeah, okay. So you guys are not sold on, I guess, on this Gibraltar pick as well. Have we seen enough from Rogue to maybe indicate that this could be harder for compLexity than they think?
God, yes. Reunited absolutely smashed compLexity yesterday. There was no doubt about that. 2 3-minute maps. Rogue took Reunited to a tiebreaker. These are very even teams, so no bones about it. compLexity are massive.
It's pretty hard to
underdogs
look at that match as an honest judgment of compLexity, though. After they came back and they beat Cloud9 on this very map, which no one thought was going to happen.
I would say that if it was a one-off in a one map, but they did it 2 maps running. It was straight clear. I mean, clearly they may have been down, but it was their choice to go to Gibraltar. They got wrecked on there again. Rogue play very similar on Gibraltar to Reunited, so I hope they've worked on something hard last night. They obviously talked about how they've got this strong work ethic. They have had to put the prep in last night.
Well, I think they've been talking about it a lot, the prep factor release. Here's Rogue, of course, for those of you at home that don't know what it is. Tavik, Reinforce, Wins, AKM, Unco, and Nox. Someone who we didn't really get to highlight too much yesterday actually was the role of Unco and Nox on this team. We talked about Zenyatta Lucio is the bread and butter here. Nox obviously came over to this team from earlier on Creation, who now is Dignitas. So, you know, bringing in a little bit more of the calling factor, of course, as the Lucio player often does here. I mean, is there a weak point on this team, in your guys' opinion, knowing some of the players, their backgrounds, their histories, and their tendencies? Is there anyone that maybe that we need to keep an eye on?
I don't really think there's any weak point, and actually Harblue giving his interview earlier saying he has those years of experience coming from Team Fortress 2.
Yep.
Tavik was actually, in the later stages of the game, one of the star players in Europe. He was an absolutely outrageous player that I don't think towards the end got the credit he deserved, but in Overwatch he's definitely showing he's a top player. Nox as well, coming from the exact same background, so both teams definitely have star players on them.
Not so much the supports, but that guy on your screen. Reinforce has great moments and really rash moments, and sometimes his aggression gets the better of him, and he was out of position a number of times against Reunited. Obviously going for the charge, it's so hard, but it's so obvious when it's a mistake.
We were mildly critical, I think, of him yesterday in his position. I think if you're a Zai, you're a Reinhardt player, you're often the subject of scrutiny because your mess ups.
It's so easy to spot. Yeah.
So gentlemen, let's go down the desk. Let's have some predictions from you, starting with Huck. Who's going to take this first map?
First map, I would say it's going to go in compLexity's favor. I went for it.
Oh,
went for it. I've always been behind them, and I'm going to stay behind them.
I'm behind them, but I think they're going to have to do something very different to surprise Rogue, and if they don't, Rogue's going to easily win this.
I think Rogue are going to smash them 2-0, no problem.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Predictions have been locked in over here at the desk, but it's time to see this one fire up. It's the first game of the day, and your casters will be Jason Kaplan and Fishsticks.
Welcome everybody to the caster's desk. We have an epic day of finals for you, $100,000 on the line. We're going to be starting off with a very contentious match, I would say. Both compLexity and Rogue have had upsets in the tournament, both of them beating Cloud9. Sad to see them go 0-2, but
it's really sad to see Cloud9 go out when they were probably one of the favorites in the entire tournament, up there with Envious and Reunited. But you know what? That's what's happened, and compLexity earned their spot. I don't think anyone out there can contend with that. And we're going to see how they're going to provide and do against Rogue.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're actually going to be starting on Gibraltar. The analysis desk did break it down, but this is a map that compLexity loves to pick, loves to choose, primarily because we can see the Harblue Roadhog come out in a big way. However, I'm very certain that Rogue has done their homework. They're going to be expecting this to come out, Jason.
I think this was even one of Rogue's better maps back at the Take TV tournament where they abused the shuttle, having Tavik on Soldier towards the high ground. But I think the real thing that a lot of people out there watching need to look out for is the two brothers on compLexity, Nicholas and Torque. Because there's so much pressure on their shoulders as DPS heroes in general. We saw them against Reunited, they didn't really show up at all, maybe a little land jitters, but they seem to come together when the time really counted against Cloud9.
Yeah, absolutely. This team of compLexity has had has put up very impressive results over the last couple of months. However, the last month or so, not really looking their normal form. We're hoping to see them return to that today here against Rogue. You know, compLexity did look a little bit lost against Reunited earlier on. Then, of course, they picked it up in a big way, and that allowed them to beat Cloud9.
To be fair, at least they weren't lost for long on Gibraltar against Reunited. That was a very quick game.
It was a quick one. Both of the maps were quick against Reunited. But enough about that. Here we go. It's going to be Rogue defending first on Watchpoint Gibraltar. compLexity will be coming out of the gate. We'll see, will we have that trademarked Roadhog? It does look like that is probably going to be happening here. And interesting lineup to start things off.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how, most importantly, Torque and Nicholas are going to work together, because Hardblue by himself can get a pick, right? He can hook someone and get a kill for the most part. But these two brothers need to work together to take down these targets, and you can already see Reinforce kind of pushed up a little bit. He's not missing too much HP, but he's being held back, and look at that ambush coming out of the side out of Rogue.
Interesting stuff. They were all tucked away in the corridor, jumping out all together. Hardblue will respond, though. Tvik gonna get a kill of his own, so this fight is not over just yet, although compLexity is down one, so likely gonna be heading back and regrouping a little bit. Torque is gonna move over the top and try to get some kind of early pick, eke out some advantage, Jason.
Yeah, that aggressive defense. Not as aggressive as we've seen in the past with the initial attack, but nonetheless, they pick up an early kill, trying to get some confidence out of the sails of compLexity. But it comes down to this next hold here. Reinforce is going to be holding that shuttle. And again, this Tracer Genji, they need to make something happen off of this, and they're still even feeling confident enough to push into the Roadhog.
And actually, Rogue is playing a more aggressive defense than we tend to see from teams. Here comes compLexity. Joemeister will be the first to draw blood. Hardblue will get the second. And I don't know how that Earthshatter didn't hit Wins. Wins must have popped a shield in the perfect timing there. He will be hooked, though. Hardblue will get a nice kill, and that certainly should be enough for them to push quite a bit further, get this first checkpoint.
We just appreciate how quickly JKW had the Earthshatter up as well. Like, that was insanely fast.
Absolutely.
And even Reinforces on that 80% of JKW's up to 30 yet again. He's hitting so many of these fire strikes, and yeah, that was the respawn coming in, right? They were in the, they were actually in the shuttle room. They didn't have the back spawn, so they picked him off really quickly, and Rogue needs to kind of get control now. They did take this position back. The question is, will they have the opportunity to do so? They do have that Graviton Surge, which can be so crucial if you pair that with Tvik. And Tvik's already had a rough game being hooked in by Hardblue just before.
Yeah, compLexity coming out the gate swinging, and you got to think that Rogue may have been a little bit too aggressive on the defense there. Tvik, though, coming down on top of the Graviton Surge. Also going to be dropped on every side. Support ultimates, tank ultimates, DPS ultimates, everything going down in this last fight, and it does look like Rogue getting the better end, and they'll actually keep a couple ultimates for this next fight as well.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a misplay to compLexity, I have to say, because Joemeister used his sound barrier before Shake even popped his Transcendence in the Graviton Surge. And obviously, when you have a Graviton Surge happen, you want to use Transcendence to completely cancel out any damage coming your way. The sound barrier won't mitigate as much damage as a Transcendence will, so they overlap support ultimates, and because of that, Rogue ends up winning a really easy fight as Unco pops his Transcendence later on, and now they've lost his control. They lost momentum, and that brings us to something we should also mention. Yesterday, compLexity, when they started to lose, it was a downward spiral. They cannot pull themselves out of that pit. And I'm worried if they get the same situation here, if Rogue can control them in this area, their defense isn't going to look any better.
But that said, compLexity, pretty good pace so far. They've made it into the shuttle phase in a very quick time. They're still on pace to set a good time here on Watchpoint Gibraltar. All they need to do is figure out how they're going to be pushing in next. Look at this positioning, though, by Rogue. They have taken the high ground. Tvik is going to come from behind, and Tvik goes for a 5K, Jason. Wow.
I mean, that was just Rogue playing that so smart. 5 people on top of the shuttle. He sat there by himself. He's Reaper. He can get away. It's not much of a threat for him to play off into the side. And this ambush catches compLexity off guard. They used one ultimate there, I believe it was.
Yep.
And they picked up all the kills they needed to shut down.
All right, but no harm, no foul.
We do see a switch. We do actually have Hardblue now on Winston instead of that Roadhog.
And that definitely makes sense. On this phase of the map, you definitely need to be able to get up on top of the shuttle. Look at how Rogue has set themselves up. They are not budging. They're not moving from the top of this point. They're going to continue to hold that high ground advantage.
And most importantly, they're keeping Tvik around the payload too, so they actually can't continue to push it through while stalling out. The shield's going to break relatively soon, and they're trying to get on the high ground like you're saying, but Hardblue doesn't have the HP to make this one work. Finally, they get on the payload. Tvik is going to get chased down, but Uncle will finally be able to respond.
All right, Hardblue dropping down on top. First 2 kills, actually 3 kills now going for compLexity, as both teams left with just 3 men standing on the point. AKM is a sharpshooter, though, and he is standing right up on top of that shuttle. That's going to be a big problem if compLexity can't find a way to dislodge him.
And that's Torque's job. Torque and Harbu together, you jump on top of the shuttle. That was an easy kill for them onto AKM on the McCree. But instead, Rogue dropped down, they leave him up there, and he gets so much free damage. He doesn't get harassed, he's not pressured to hit the shots. He just gets to sit back, relax, hit the headshots when he can, and then just completely wipe compLexity again. And this is the stage of the game, I have to say, where I have to come back to the whole, when compLexity starts slipping, they fall.
Yeah.
They need to catch themselves here. They need an individual great play at a Torque, potentially. They need something to get this one going.
Oh, one fire strike just hit 4 people. Them all taken down solo. Reinforce is going to have his ultimate on top of that. But now, the sound barrier will be dropped for compLexity as they are on the point. They're going to be brawling it out. But it looks like Rogue coming out on top of this engagement for the time being. Torque is still up, though. Torque can do lots and lots of damage if he is not focused down. It's actually going to be Torque versus Tvik in this fight. Tvik and Torque will be going at it. Some of the last people left standing on the point, and Tvik has to save this for his team.
Well, he chose to contest it for a little bit to buy some time for his teammates to get in, which they will be able to do, but now Harbu's gonna be leaping forward on a sliver of HP left, and Torque is trying to stall, maybe with his reflect as well, just dashing back in.
Oh man, Torque and Nicholas are looking like different players from their match against Reunited earlier. Their aim has been on point. That said, Rogue will be contesting here. They're going to be able to get a couple kills. Nicholas and JKW will fight back. Tvik is going to land a pulse bomb, it looks like, but I'm a little bit surprised to see Tvik running with Tracer on defense here.
Yeah, I think he got picked up early in one of the fights, so he had to switch to Tracer to get back extremely quickly. Not to mention, he can use Tracer to just kind of float around the edges, the little skirmishes around the fight, and when compLexity are splitting up like they've been doing for a little bit of time, having a man try to push the payload as they fight towards the high ground, Tvik ideally should be able to win that 1v1. The payload's gonna be slowly rolling back. Rogue have held. They committed a lot of ultimates into that last fight, but Reinforce again. He has his Earth Shot already. He almost seems to always have this up.
Yeah, he does, and what was looking like a pretty decent pace has now been slowed down to an absolute crawl on the shuttle phase. What is compLexity going to be able to do to shake this up? They're actually going to have a couple of ultimates up in the next 30 seconds or so. But they're still looking a little bit shaky. They've been hesitant to push in as a team, just moving ever so slowly forward. Here comes Torque with the Dragon Blade. Let's see what value he can get out of this.
Trying to make something happen out of it. He's going to be taken out by AKM. The rest of Rogue are going to shut down compLexity. And Torque was sitting on this Dragon Blade for a good 1.5 to 2 minutes. He did use it for the entire shuttle phase. And just like that, because he's trying to go for a big team play instead of an individual play, which ideally in the right situation you should, it nets him nothing. It nets him not even a single kill, and Rogue will hold again.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what that ultimate was about from Harblue. He's going to be going ape, but no value as the rest of his team completely out of the fight. I guess he wanted to just use it in order to switch on over to Roadhog.
It's such a gimmick, though. Like, to have to depend on a hook landing to win a fight is never going to make you one of the best teams in the world. You can't depend on this. I mean, Harbu, he's damn accurate, right? But you need to be able to win like a 6v6 head-on-head fight instead of getting an early pick.
compLexity finally moving forward with authority, with confidence, but they get caught in a Graviton Surge as a reward for that. Unfortunate for them as they've been stuttered and stopped once again. The Reinhardt will be going down here. JKW away from his team, and Reinhardt's not going to do too well against 3 in that engagement. Torque trying to get something. Torque needs to be able to get an early pick, dislodge at least the defense from the high ground, something like that, because compLexity so far, when they've pushed as one, they have been shut down every time.
Yeah, you have to give credit, though, to Rogue in the way they're actually defending this, because AKM doesn't typically go down. The only time he's actually really fallen is when Harbu jumped on him on Winston, but he was left to himself. Like, AKM didn't have any support, but Rogue are sticking together enough that if Harbu did jump in on Winston, what the hell was that? AKM takes Torque out of the sky.
AKM is looking like a new player at this on-LAN environment. We've heard that the French players, they really become alive on the LAN here in person, here at Gamescom 2016. When all the money is on the line, that's when they're really going to shine. And man, have AKM and Wins looked so good. That is going to be a clean wipe. compLexity, they got that first point in a matter of seconds, but they have been completely stumped on the shuttle phase, and that's got to feel pretty damn good for Rogue.
Yeah, I think so. And compLexity, I mean, the thing is, a lot of teams get stopped here, so it's not something that we haven't seen too often, but it's still really difficult to go into an elimination match and not even complete the first map, which is the map you've been picking this entire time whenever you lost a game. So a little unfortunate for them, but they do have the opportunity to pull off that aggressive defense. We think back to yesterday, they went for the Winston Tracer to just jump in and pick up kills quickly. Problem is, they weren't actually able to use that aggressive defense. They're always engaged on themselves, and that's where the comp's going to really fall.
We'll see where compLexity does decide to set up here on Watchpoint Gibraltar. A lot of teams have been favoring setting up within the server room. playing very far back. It was Rogue who actually tried to push forward and stop the payload before it went under the archway. We'll see where compLexity likes to set up here. You know, we've seen them actually have a really interesting defensive setup on the first point of Watch Point Gibraltar in the past, where they kind of spread all of their players around evenly on the inside room, the second room, past the archway. They just kind of spread across the walkways and things like that. We'll see if they do that here, and definitely looks like that's going to happen again. But I don't really know. What do you think, Jason, about this Tracer pick? I mean, it seems very high risk and very high reward, but more high risk to me.
It's very high risk on defense, I'd say. And especially against AKM, who's already on fire on this McCree, it's really difficult to make much happen if AKM could just hit a flashbang, or even Tvik on the Reaper. I'm just worried that they switched things up a little bit. I thought it was Harbu running the Winston before, and Nicholas on the Tracer, and then they had a Zarya as well at JKW to shield up Harbu when he jumped in for that aggressive defense, but they gone for a little bit of a tweak. So they do have Torque to provide that high ground control if they do want it, but they don't have a Reinhardt shield to sit behind. So when it comes to, push come to shove, Rogue is going to be able to slowly push this payload through until compLexity do get the attack they want.
Yeah, it seems like this defensive setup here is kind of designed to jump in. Harblue can get an early pick, and then comes the Winston. But yeah, you're very much right. Without that Reinhardt shield, they're not going to really have the ability to have a static defense and really gain high ground control. They're probably going to just be jumping on it.
We're even seeing Tvik play Roadhog here for the first time for him so far in this tournament. He's got to be feeling cocky here too, I think, because it's not too difficult to hit a hook when someone's on that high ground off towards the left, as you can see, because they're not defending the server room. And not to mention, he already catches the Harblue, but he did hook first. If you're a Moon fan, you know how that turns out, and Tvik will fall.
Never hook first. Harblue actually, man, that looked bad for a moment. Harblue is the king of Roadhog right now in competitive Overwatch. He's known for it, but Tvik gets the first hook. Will end up going down. So Harblue and compLexity looking solid now, as Rogue must wait for Tvik to get back into the action. And he is going to be waddling slowly as Roadhog into the action as well.
I like you say waddling.
Yeah, it's true. He does have a waddle.
And Harblue is actually trying to go in as well a little bit, but he gets picked off by AKM, and they even had JKW towards the high ground trying to zap them with the Tesla cannon. And Turk will eventually be able to turn that back on AKM to give them the McCree advantage, but there we go. JKW is going to fall. Tvik does pick up that kill, and the hook will be off cooldown soon.
All right, and the payload is moving ever closer to the next checkpoint. It's gotten quite close now. It must be a collapse coming in for this second. Nicholas gets a kill, and that is such an important kill. Let's see if he can get any value out of this Deadeye, at least trying to take down that Reinhardt shield a little bit further. And compLexity, they're still in this. It's a crazy fight back and forth, though. Still very even, difficult to call, but compLexity eking out an advantage. That's going to be enough. And AKM, unless he can Pearl a Miracle, no. Torque is going to hold strong, so... Uh-oh.
And
4
even
minutes
Nox,
left.
I mean, Nox committed his sound barrier there too, when it was probably looking really bad. Reinforce didn't have really any charge on his shield, so they couldn't have necessarily a great extended fight. Uncle got picked off immediately by Nicholas, who dropped in behind him, which is exactly what you want to do as a Tracer. You can... And we always see Genjis when it comes to abusing high ground, but Tracer as well. You just go through that side room towards the right-hand side of your screen, get up on the high ground, and when they push in under you, if they're not contesting that position in general, then you get free kills. And if you can take a Zenyatta down like Unco, that'll give you a win any day of the week.
That might be Nicholas's target indeed. And here comes the Transcendence for the attacking team. They're going to try and use this and get some kind of advantage. Just Tvik coming all the way from around. He is no longer on the Roadhog. He's going to be switching on over to Reaper, which we've seen him play quite a lot of in this tournament.
Yeah, and he gets the revenge most importantly against Harblue, who's been able to beat him in the 1v1 Roadhog battles. But now he's going to get shoved out, not looking too good for him. Yeah, they picked up an early kill or two, but the thing is, JKW picks up a double, and AKM by himself again for a second time running is just not able to accomplish much. And compLexity, are they going to defend this? Are they going to go for full defense?
This is looking pretty solid so far, and Rogue has been bashing their head against a brick wall for the time being. That said, still plenty of time to make this happen, and remember, all they have to do is get it halfway through the hangar phase, and they're going to be able to take this first map, which, of course, is a map that we've seen compLexity pick time and time again. So, here comes the next engagement. It's going to be Winston jumping on the back of Rogue, but he's more or less by himself, and actually Winston's able to pick up 2 with the Graviton Surge, and not able to get too many kills, though. AKM's going to be looking for the headshots, reinforce, and Nox will continue, and this is finally the push that Rogue has needed.
Most importantly, Reinforce got the charge on a Nicholas, and that's never easy to do as a Reinhardt. If you can pick off a Tracer just like that, that's never a bad thing, obviously.
Oh, feels so
and
good, man.
Yeah, it's got to feel good. It's got to pump him up. And I even talked to him yesterday saying, you know, you're hitting a lot of your charges. And he starts talking about how, yeah, he doesn't go for charges often anymore. He just goes for the charges he knows he can hit. And if he's that confident they had a Tracer, that says something.
Yeah, this is actually now looking pretty bad for compLexity as they lost to. They had a pretty unlucky spawn there, where two people jumped out of the spawn and were pretty much separated from the rest of the team. That said, there's still time for them to jump on the point, contest, and try to keep the dream alive here on Watchpoint Gibraltar as they're trying to gain high ground control. It does look like Rogue is there first, though. It's going to be, looks like Tvik is pushing off Harblu off the point, and Harblu, this is the first time we've seen him play D.Va, and it's going to be a Transcendence coming out from Rogue. And Jason, Rogue looks pretty good in this fight with that Transcendence. That's going to be pretty good for them, but it's Transcendence now coming out from both sides. Tvik will drop the Death Blossom, but D.Va eats Death Blossoms for breakfast.
And that Transcendence of Unco is a little bit questionable too, because they lost ACAM on the top of the shuttle before that fight even began. They committed that big support ultimate for basically nothing. Nothing was really used against them in turns ult-wise, and now Harblu's going to continue to push forward. This man seems to play any tank he needs, any kind of hero they ever need for a team. You can always depend on this man. And you saw him initially, like you pointed out, trying to get that control on the high ground, but he just didn't get the knockoff on Tvik far enough, and he was forced back.
Yeah, I mean, it was looking good for Rogue there just for a second, but now I actually really like this D.Va pick, especially against something like the Reaper of Tvik, and we'll see if Tvik actually switches off. He has switched off. Now he's playing Tracer, and here comes a big D.Va ultimate, gonna push everyone away. So even though AKM gets 3, Harblu is gonna respond immediately.
Torque is just trying to fight out against Unco. He's just dodging left and right here. He's eventually gonna fall to Shake, funny enough, but that was a great Deadeye coming in, but Harblu timed, like you said, that self-destruct at a perfect moment. And compLexity will hold again, but keep in mind, they don't even need to get this next checkpoint. They just have to get close to it to actually finish off this first map. So Rogue still have 2.5 minutes left to just get the payload 13 meters farther.
Yeah, the time is ticking down with 2 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock. Rogue has to start feeling the pressure at this point. They're gonna start having to get aggressive. Still enough time to build up a couple of ultimates and push in as a team. Nicholas will get the first kill. JKW gonna get another. So compLexity once again holding very, very strong here on the second phase of Watchpoint Gibraltar. Just a couple meters, like you said, Jason. You know, what do you think that they should do? What are they saying on team comms right now? How are they gonna get in?
I know
get into
Unco's
this fight?
saying. Unco's saying team. They're trying to abuse the fact that compLexity wants to hold the high ground, but the payload only needs to get a little bit further in distance. So they're trying to continually keep one man on it to push it forward to catch him off guard, which you see Tvik doing just now. And as long as compLexity don't contest it, they can actually lose this game themselves. Someone needs to get this payload. It's finally going to be contested now, but now the fight might not go their way.
That was a little bit late jumping down, but Torque will get the first kill in this engagement, looking pretty good once again. Rogue used a couple of ultimates, so they're out of Transcendence. No more sound barrier. So Rogue back to the drawing board once again, but will Tvik pull a miracle here? He's against 3. Not gonna make it happen here, but now just 1 minute and 20 seconds left on the clock. The pressure is mounting, and that has gotta feel rough for Rogue. This is not even a hard accomplishment. They're just getting through the hangar phase.
This is why I like seeing Harblu on D.Va, actually, because he can get back to that payload extremely quickly and just depend on him to kind of contest it, then 1v1 the Tracer, or at least hold the Tracer back off enough for the rest of the team to get in there. But again, they're back on the high ground. They have a self-destruct ready to go. They have a pulse one. They have an Earth Shatter, and Tvik has now transitioned over to the Genji.
Yeah, not much time to build a Dragon Blade, though. He should be able to do it within the next 50 seconds, as long as he doesn't die early on in this engagement. But a nice D.Va ult is going to come out, and combined with that flashbang, Tvik had no chance at all.
Yeah, Dragon Blade, let's see, what percent is he currently at? 20. So
not
good.
much.
Not good. 23%. He's going to need quite a bit more than that to finish off this map. But this is the final attack here. compLexity, if they hold this for another 30 seconds, they will have won this first map up against Rogue in a best of 3.
Oh man, the Cinderella story is real for compLexity here. The massive underdogs in the tournament, they ended up eliminating Cloud9 yesterday. And will they be able to take map number 1? We're going to find out in the next 20 seconds. This engagement, everything is on the line. Tvik gets the first kill, which is so important. There is also an Earth Shatter, though, for JKW. This could be big. He's had everyone in his sights. He's gonna knock down 3 or 4 in that one ultimate, and that is massive for his team. Yet, still, Rogue fights on. They're gonna pop the Transcendence. Here they come, still on the point, just a couple of meters. AKM is gonna get 2. Nox is gonna get a 3rd in the last possible seconds. Rogue is gonna do it.
And AKM again picking up 4 kills in that final push. This man has done it just yesterday on Lijiang Tower. He's able to do it again. And that will be the first map going over to Rogue. It was definitely not an easy one. It was not as one-sided as we maybe would have expected, but they did it nonetheless. And now compLexity, I would have to say, can be relatively happy with that performance.
Yeah, they gotta be A little disappointed in the end, though. They held up until that last possible second. Tvik was able to open it up for his team with an early pick in that engagement, and that's really all they needed. JKW did respond with a huge Earth Shatter, knocking at least 3 of compLexity onto their butts.
It was just a little too late, though, because they already lost 3 players. And because of that, it's like, all right, you Earth Shattered, yeah, but you lost your DPS. You're by yourself trying to take down 4 or 5 people. And it was just this downward spiral from there. And the thing is, they had old advantage. They had the self-destruct, they had the Earth Shatter, but the self-destruct wasn't even used because when we saw Harbler go on the payload to contest it to stop it from being pushed, he got desuited instantly. And they didn't have the opportunity to pop that one down. So it was a little bit unfortunate for him. But again, Rogue, I think, as you can see on the screen, just don't look too happy with that result either.
Yeah, compLexity turning a lot of heads this tournament, but we're going to turn our heads to the analysis desk and let them break that one down.
Well, gentlemen, there it is. A little bit closer than we maybe would have expected here on Gibraltar. Stir started off by saying, I don't think compLexity realized that this is maybe not such a great map for them here, but it went close in the end. Let's start at the start. We saw the Roadhog from Harblue. Do we have the approval or not?
He got the hook. He got the hook onto who?
Zaya, Wins.
Wins, yeah. He got the hook onto Wins. Reinforce went deep. The hook came in, both tanks dead. Perfect, they got the point. It was looking great for them on the first attack, second attack, because Rogue went overly aggressive at the start. So it all worked out very well for them, but unfortunately, in the end, it didn't work out. I mean, they had to make changes, and this is something that both teams seem to be a little guilty of there. The switching was a little slow on Heroes.
So after we got to the hangar phase here for compLexity, what sort of happened there as well? They seem to struggle with Rogue being set up on the shuttle.
Yeah, they were up on the high ground, and they were relying still on Harblue on that Roadhog, and Roadhog's hook doesn't go that far, so they were running out of options. They were trying to push up the top right, but even when they did really coordinated Lucio speed boost into the top right room to try and take some of the high ground, they were hit with a Graviton Surge. It came in. Right now on screen, we're seeing the first push from compLexity. Actually, right here is where Wins is going to be grabbed by Harblue in just a second, getting backed up. He was a little bit aggressive with his shield, didn't have it to save him. Really well blocks that Earth Shatter even for the rest of his team, but backing up Harblue gets the great pick there, and that's what lets them get forward on this point.
More interesting, the positioning was just so bad. They were overextended. You could see that they came from that bottom ground, and now we're going to get into this hangar phase, and Tvik just going ham. I don't understand how they couldn't target him down. The one time that Reaper is actually vulnerable, he can't shift away, is when he's ultimate.
Yes, right here. I believe Graviton Surge in a second. If not, no, they were hit up there.
This is the defense now coming out here from compLexity. So they actually set up in a different way than you thought they would, Stu. You said this is not how they held yesterday.
Oh yeah, compLexity yesterday was not holding on the top of the shuttle. I think being beat as bad as they were by Rogue a moment ago, by them holding on the top, made them say, you know what, we're going to do this as well. We're going to be up on top, and it really worked well for them. I think Rogue made them a better team by holding that defense as long as they did.
Yeah, and a lot of these team fights are just back and forth. You can see that they finally cleaned them up at the end, but it was OT. It went the full way. I want to say AKM, even at the end here, he just showed up so well for his team.
There are a few moments you pointed out, said AKM, that was very crisp mechanically here as well. Even if we didn't get to sort of see it in the replay, it wasn't quite a four-man Deadeye. Definitely very solid play from AKM throughout.
I mean, there was a couple of times he got the triple Deadeye in earlier on, but they couldn't complete it because Harblue then got their back line. It was a very mishmash. Certainly not the clear, crisp performance I was expecting from Rogue. Very ropey for them. So clearly both teams this morning not feeling at their best right now.
So what's up with the mentality from going your compLexity, right? They still obviously lost the map, but you had a pretty average offense phase and you move into defense. How do you make that transition from a poor offense into actually putting up a very solid hold there in the hangar phase?
Yeah, mentally, I feel like that was their biggest victory. I mean, when you're in that big deficit, you're looking at it, you're like, you know what, guys, I think we're just going to lose this point. But they actually had a great defense, and it was a slow start for them. It seemed like they gave up a lot of ground, and they kept losing members, and then they still held, which was the strangest thing. Like, we saw them go down 1 or 2 men, and then they still win 4v6 battles.
That's exactly what I'm saying, is we've never seen compLexity hold on the top of the shuttle. All the games they've played Gibraltar, and they played it so much, we haven't seen them do that, but Rogue did so well at holding them that when it came to that point, they finally decided, that's a good idea. I really think Rogue just taught them a great lesson as a team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's one way to grow, I guess, even in defeat league.
Yeah, in their defense, they had no chance to do it against Reunited because they just bypassed it. Reunited actually got up there and took aggressive, and actually Cloud9 did similar. They were very aggressive. They happened to win the fight early, in the first phase, and then they were on the shuttle before compLexity got the respawns in there. So it's the first time they've actually had a chance to do it.
Well, Rogue, actually, they were on top of the shuttle. They had like 2 or 3 members up, and they still came up, and you said, you know what, let's go up as a group. Let's fight. Let's contest this. So we can see them growing this tournament, but if they want to continue, they're going to have to continue to grow.
Right, well, gentlemen, the next map is going to be Hanamura, so let's let that bomb drop for a second, and let's chat about this one as well. It is compLexity's pick. They managed to upset Liquid through the qualifiers on it. Huck, you, first of all, any thoughts on this one going in?
I mean, I want to give credit to Damon. He's been calling this, I think, since yesterday, saying that hopefully compLexity would pick this because they have picked it in the past and they've been successful.
So actually we saw Torbjorn coming out from them in the qualifiers on this exact map. So we'll see whether they do it again. Obviously they played Ono on it and, like you mentioned, Team Liquid. So it was kind of, obviously they got history in picking it, but it worked out very well for them. They almost beat Envy on it as well at one point.
I'm really excited to see this. The Hanamura map we had yesterday was one of the best games. We had Rogue going against Reunited. It was incredible. The time bank system worked really well, but also there's a lot of varied strategies you can see here. But I think also in compLexity's favor, that first choke point is very popular for Roadhogs. A Roadhog and a Zarya can hold that, as well as a Reinhardt. I think it plays very well to their tanks, which is what we're seeing compLexity do a lot.
Yeah, and obviously the main thing is you got Tavik on Mei, which worked very well yesterday. I mean, you can call it a tropical you like, but that wall separating the team can work very well.
Well, gentlemen, quickly predictions. Just the team. We're going to run down the line as we are ready to get into game with Huck.
I said compLexity. I'm sticking by them. Hopefully they can defeat Mei as Bay.
I think compLexity definitely has this. They're more strategic and organized, and I think Hanamura calls for that.
No, Rogue are going to take it. Still going to be 2-0.
Ooh, okay. The European sentiment is strong here on the desk, at least from Lee. But Hanamura, maybe a glimpse of hope here for the struggling compLexity. There's only one way to find out. We're going to pass it back over the desk. Gentlemen, take us in.
All right, map number 2 coming your way between compLexity and Rogue. We are headed back to Hanamura, where we saw one of the most exciting games, frankly, in Overwatch history yesterday. Will we see Mei? Will we see Ana? What are we going to see, Jason?
See, okay, the passion that Stir has for Ana is the exact opposite of what I have for Mei. Mei always frustrates the hell out of me, but to Vic, you have to give it to him. He played a hell of a Mei yesterday. I think what's interesting about this is that Watchpoint Gibraltar was such a close game, and that both these teams, whoever does actually win the entire series, it doesn't get easier from here on. Because you play against Envious at a semifinal and a best of 5. You've got Rogue, who could potentially have a rematch of Tavik and his old team. And then you have compLexity, who's 0 for 22 against Envious on maps. So it's going to be tough for both the teams when we get into the semifinal. But Hanamura, I think that's a hell of a way to go into our whole entire day today.
I mean, talk about a prize for winning this. To face Envious. That is your prize.
Is that a prize?
You are facing Envious
like
after this.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. That's my point here, Jason. It's not a good look for either of these teams facing off against the #1 team in the world if they're able to overcome this next map here. Of course, we saw Rogue take they actually took Reunited to the final point here. It ended up being a draw on Hanamura. Went to Ilios to end the series yesterday as a final tiebreaker. You know, we saw Tavik really use Mei on actually a lot more than most other teams. In some situations that you would expect, some situations that you wouldn't expect. But of course, folks, if you're just tuning in today, you didn't catch the match yesterday, really one of the reasons you're going to pick Mei, especially on defense, is to try to section off the army as it comes through the door. But look at this. Are we not going to see it?
We're not. No, I think compLexity are actually expecting it a little bit.
Yeah, they must be.
What I like about their comp is how mobile it is. You have a Winston who can jump in. You have a Genji and Tracer who can get over that wall, over that enclosure to actually bypass the entirety of a Mei wall. And they obviously do have a speed boost out of Joe Meister. But the thing is, with the Genji and Tracer, they're so independent. They don't need a team to actually fight because they can just sit. They can be very mobile, dodge around a lot of damage. Obviously, Tracer can heal herself, and Genji has the ability to just dash away and get towards these health packs. So I think they're reading into this expecting a Mei, and they're building their composition around it. It's going to come down to how they fight on the point, because that's obviously what they're looking to do. They're going to look to speed boost, get on the point immediately, and fight there.
I mean, this is an assassination team comp. They want to jump right into the opponent's army. If there's anyone sectioned off, they might be able to get a super early pick. And actually, look, if you take a look, it's going to be, they know the strategy that might be coming out here. Of course, we have Tavik waiting in the wings. He's not even walking around. He's not going to give any audio cues. So compLexity probably is wondering, where is Tavik? Actually, Torque was looking for him earlier, so Tavik waiting for his opportunity. Will he be able to get this early kill? Not happened just yet, but Reinforced gets 2. Wow, Reinhardt gonna open this game up very quickly, and compLexity has been shut down this first time around, and actually they're going to be lucky if Torque and of course his friendly Zenyatta don't go down here. Oh, and AKM gets Shake in the last possible second, so Shake gonna have to wait for him to come from spawn, and that's just another couple seconds.
This is what I love about a Reinhardt on this point, because a Reinhardt's so much more imposing than any other tank just because of his shield alone. You can't really just run by him like you can see a Zarya and be like, all right, whatever, I can just ditch you and go into your back lines. So that's why he's so impactful in this part. And compLexity aren't trying to go for that battle. They're not trying to sit behind a Reinhardt themselves. They're looking to get in really quickly, which they're going to do here, being sped up. Reinforce is just swinging away. Finally, someone's going to be on the point. But AKM is already able to help sanction off Hardblue.
Oh.
And he's going to die to the pulse spot of Nicholas. So that's actually looking good here for compLexity.
Nicholas is doing what he can for his team, of course, playing Tracer. We've seen him play quite a bit of Tracer throughout the months and throughout the tournament as well, and able to get a nice pulse bomb there, but his team, too many of them are down and out, so Nicholas must wait, must bide his time, and he's going to try and play sneaky and jump out just when his team needs him, but JKW maybe getting a little bit over-aggressive. Hardblue will be there to back him up with the shield, and look at Rogue's positioning right now. They're very, very far back, Jason.
They've conceded this entire first point initially because they didn't have all 6 people here, but they're going to come in from the backside with ultimates blared, ultimates ready to go. The sound barrier has come in, and Reinforce is going to pick up 2, and Rogue will pull off the successful defense. So instead of being too far pushed up, getting caught up with a 6-mana compLexity, they wait for their entire team to group back up again. They give one of the checkpoints on the point away, and then they go for their re-attack and hold it down again.
Yeah, basically Rogue just did what you never see in ranked.
Yeah, sadly.
What you sadly never see in ranked. They knew they were down 1, so playing safe, playing smart, and Rogue will continue to hold this first point without a Mei. Kind of unfortunate for the Mei fans in the audience and, of course, online, wherever you're joining us from, but it's going to be an engagement. compLexity moving straight through the gate, but they're all in the sights of AKM. This could be the biggest high noon of the week. Here it is, 4 kills in a row for AKM. We've seen him do that already, actually.
I don't know about you, Fish Sticks, but I really feel like he wanted like a 5 or 6 man.
He was waiting
forever, right? And there wasn't a reflex there right away to stop him. You're like, no, I want all the kills for me. I want the glory.
Oh, is the sound barrier up too? So of course it takes even longer to lock on those skulls and get the Deadeye kill. But AKM making it happen, and that's the risk you play when you jump right into the action. But this time Nicholas is going to get a pulse bomb combined with the Graviton Surge. Reinforce is doing so much work with Reinhardt though. We've seen him get kill after kill after kill, but they have to jump onto the point right now. It's going to be captured, and compLexity gets it, even though Rogue was still in the fight. They were still around the point. They mistimed it a little bit, frankly.
Yeah, and smartly enough, though, they jump up at the end just to make sure they're respawning quick enough. And they do have an Earth Shatter reinforced, which can be so instrumental in maintaining control of this point to kind of stop this momentum that compLexity's now built up. But they're still being aggressive. They're already on the point. They're already starting to get the capture here.
Oh, trying to go for that flashbang, but Reinhardt will back off just in time, and Reinforce with another big ultimate, and he has been the MVP for his team so far here on Hanamura, getting way more kills, frankly, than Reinhardt usually should.
Oh, Torque. Getting saved by Nox there. He's going to be able to dash back in again, but there's still a lot of people on compLexity alive on this point. The problem is they're not going to be able to stream in as quickly as Rogue can do, so as long as Rogue picks up a kill or 2 apiece, they're able to completely lock down compLexity. Finally get some control at this point. Now we have 5 minutes.
Tracer hunting. He's got his sights trained on Nicholas. How far will he go? He actually will be able to get it with the help of Unko. Unko getting that long-range kill, and Unko, you know, we don't sing the praises of support enough, but Unko, as far as Zenyatta goes, is able to get just a serious amount of damage done. And interesting positioning now by Rogue. They have taken not just the high ground, but the higher ground, the highest ground. And a lot of teams on attack do like to go up through that left-hand side, but they're going to be jumping right on the point, and now actually Rogue caught out a little bit out of position.
Yeah, they're going to need to contest. You can see Unko chasing already straight away onto Hardblue, who's going to fall to Unko. Torque's able to take down AKM, yes. He's able to get at least 1 McCree now gone, but Rogue lost 2 people. They've lost 3 now. The Reinforce will be there quick enough out of the entire team, but compLexity are getting so much progress at the point.
Torque was left all by himself, just raining hell from the side of Hanamura. And, you know, a great McCree will be able to do that if you don't stop him, and that's going to be a capture. Not a super fast time, but in 6 minutes, compLexity able to put 2 points on the board. Now, we're going to switch sides and see how quickly Rogue can move through Hanamura. And Hanamura does tend to go long, Jason. We saw it yesterday. Will we see it go the length again today?
It's very possible. I'm still just trying to think, why did Rogue defend on the high ground? So there's like 2 possibilities. A, they knew the composition that compLexity was using and expected them to rush on the point, and they wanted to choose the fight when they wanted to. Or B, they expected them to change the comp and go on the high ground where they could contest with the Earth Shatter they had available for Reinforce. But as we saw the result, it didn't work out either way. So a little bit of a misplay out of them. Credit to Torque to just stay safe.
Yeah,
off the side like
absolutely.
you're pointing out. Just to make sure to say, you know, if you're not going to attack me, I can get so much free reign in. And we've seen so many teams actually fight back on defense when a DPS player is allowed to just do as much damage as possible and not being harassed.
Yeah, and I think you can't overstate how important that positioning was for Torque.
And no one
He
uses that spot either.
Yeah,
right?
no,
So-
usually you have a Genji or a Tracer coming on from the flanking angles, but this time it was a McCree, not going from the top, not going from the middle, but taking the huge flank, and it really paid off there for Torque. And that said, still plenty of time for Rogue to strike back here on Hanamura. Like we mentioned, 6 minutes to capture 2 points is it's fairly middling. You know, it's good to at least go through the full map, but we could potentially see Rogue do that in a much quicker time here.
And Fishes, there's something that kind of worries me between two players that probably don't get a lot of credit. The two tanks, actually. Reinforce up against JKW. I feel like Reinforce, for the most part, has been able to win out on these battles in terms of mind games and actually being able to swing his hammer a little bit quicker and actually kill him. And compLexity is going to need to rely on JKW to have that strong shield to allow him to have a good defense. They're going to need him to be able to sit on the front line and not worry about Tvik, who's just going to be going for the flank. He's going to try to separate the entire compLexity, force Nicholas to go for him, maybe force Shake back there as well, because if he does that, Rogue will have a man advantage fight at the choke point.
Yeah, Jason, I'm quite interested to see where compLexity is going to set up on defense. Of course, Rogue was right up against the gate. Does look like compLexity holding a little bit further back there, content to hold that Reinhardt shield by the point itself. And here's the engagement right away, using that speed boost, getting on the point. Rogue is gone aggressive.
But they switched comps actually really quickly right before they started, because AKM was on the McCree, but the Tracer's not seeming to work out for him as him and Reinforce are going to fall immediately. Tvik trying to go towards the back, trying to look for Shake. He's going to get the kill, and he will retreat right away, because they're going to have the ability to respawn back in and attack again, unless Wind goes down there. So they will technically have a man advantage for 5 to 10 seconds. They just have to capitalize off of this now.
Oh, yeah. Vic hitting those juicy right clicks, making it count, and he jumped right onto that Zenyatta. Of course, that is one of the things Genjis do best. But here's another push, and it's going to be the same way as last time, pushing right on in. Tvik this time opening it up, though. compLexity, if you look at their health, half the team is half dead, and they could be dropping like flies in just a moment. Reinforced, though, almost dead as well. So can we see a miracle? No, there is no miracle pulse bomb. We're going to see this first point captured much quicker this time around.
So you remember how Rogue defended this when they lost a couple of people? They sat back at their own choke point and then went in as a team. compLexity did the opposite. They were down a man, and they just stuck there on point and got overwhelmed. Like, that's kind of what's going to happen if you don't retreat and kind of respect the enemy team. But they did have some good damage. JKW was able to swing for the fences, and actually, I think it was 2 kills and a lot of damage overall. But now they're contesting the high ground. Rogue are not switching their composition, and with this Dragon Blade available, what does compLexity have to counter? They don't have any support ultimates just yet. Joe Meister's really close, though.
Man, Tvik is so ballsy right now, just getting in the face of his opponents. Torque and Nicholas, the TJO brothers, will pick up 2. AKM also picks up 2, and now the Dragon Blade could seal the deal here. One more swipe is going to be all Zarya needs to go down, and looks like Rogue is going to be able to capture here in 3 minutes on Hanamura. That's about half the time it took compLexity. compLexity, though, still with one more chance. JKW on the point. Here come Nicholas and Shake. They're coming out from spawn, and they don't have time to really sync up, but it's working out okay. They're at least able to get on the point, but the kills are snowballing out of control. I don't see this happening for compLexity. They're able to get on the point and at least delay a little bit longer, but the ultimates are coming out now from both sides, and while the delaying strategy is continuing, JKW pulled on into that Graviton Surge. Nicholas now on the point, but like we said, it's probably a little bit too little too late. Here comes Mei, gonna delay even longer. Here comes D.Va. This is the ultimate delay strategy with everyone that can just survive as long as possible, and
they're gonna hold, actually.
They've held for 30 seconds when they were down so far and so out. AKM still doing work. Wins and AKM together. They are actually brothers, as we've talked about earlier on in the cast, and they're keeping this going, so the fight rages onwards, Jason.
AKM, though, able to pick up 2 quick kills with his Tracer. He's looking for the third. His Reinforcers finally going to chime in, and after a really shaky play towards the end, Rogue will finally finish off their first attacking half with that Mei D.Va. Like, that's stall. Like, that's what's going to happen when you use all your ultimates to actually capture the point initially. Nox had a really good sound barrier when he ran back in after dying initially, which caught the entire team. It saved AKM, it saved Tvik, who were on 50 HP each. But then they had no ultimates to use because they're forced to use it just to try to get that initial control of the point. And eventually, the defense will overwhelm you if they pick up a kill. You know, 1 here, 1 there. Eventually, you'll be down too many men.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. You're right, Jason. I mean, it looked like for a moment there, compLexity was going to hold. It was only off the back of some very clutch kills from AKM and Wins. Really, they had to carry their team at the end there.
It's a little bit sad to not have Wins playing full damage because then we can have the brothers battling against each other.
Yeah, TJO versus versus the French brothers.
Yeah, I don't know their last name.
I think someone over there did. We'll have to get a reminder later.
But now you have to kind of wonder, are we going to see the May? And it looks like Rogue want to go that strategy. They know they've already beat them in time in general. They're 2 minutes ahead. And if they can just delay, like they did before without a May for another 3 minutes, then they very well could shut complexity out before they can capture this first point.
Absolutely anything could happen, though. Ladies and gentlemen, we're switching sides one more time. Hanamura, both teams tied at 2 points apiece. Of course, though, Rogue with 2 more minutes to try and capture when they switch on back to attack. Complexity, not down and out yet. Anything can happen on these assault maps. Capture point, the 2 capture point maps have provided some of the most entertaining, wild, crazy, unpredictable games that we've had so far in the tournament.
This is going to be tough for complexity, too, because I don't know if they're going to expect the May. They don't have Genji this time to actually check if there's a May on the other side. If they're going to be walled out immediately, as you see, Torque is pretty much by himself, getting chased down by Tvik, saying, let it go here, you're going to die anyways. And that will be Rogue holding the first attack.
You know, I'd really like to see Torque stick with Genji. His Genji has looked very strong so far in the tournament, and this is a map that Genji excels at, able to jump over through the window, of course, jump over those ice walls. We're probably maybe going to see a switch, no, but Torque was able to get 40% of his ultimate in that last engagement playing as McCree, so he's going to stick with it.
It's so tough to battle against the May as well here because the choke point's so tight, and it's really hard to force a player like Tvik or anyone at this level to use the ice wall a little bit too early. But actually, quite a few of them got through the point this time, but Wins already takes down one. That's Joe Meister now gone. Tvik is going to survive as he gets the freeze on the hard blue, and complexity again are falling one by one.
Yep. And complexity have gone down and out, and now hard blue, the last one left, and he's going to just try to survive, but there's no chance for him there. And now he's offset a couple seconds from his team, so they're going to be waiting and spawn for just a little bit longer. And Unko, Torque has finally switched on over to Genji, and I do like to see this here, especially against the May. Super important to be able to dash in, dash out after you get the kills, get the eliminations, and of course jump over the wall as well.
And you can see Tvik respecting complexity as well, because if he's pushed up towards the gate, he could be jumped on and immediately be taken down. But he's already been flanked by Nicholas, so he needs to go back and deal with him. In the meantime, Rogue are going to push out immediately here. They're going to leave Tvik here in the actual point just to contest on his ship just to stay alive, and the rest of the team's going to come back in a fight because they've wiped him out the front gate.
I'm not sure how complexity got all the way behind Rogue. That was looking great for them for a second. They had the positional advantage for sure, but yeah, that goes to show you one of the big strengths of May is just her ability to delay like that. He was outnumbered 1 versus 3, but ice block, let his team come on in.
It's such a smart play to do too, to Rogue to make that call, push out the front, let's kill them, let's not fall back, and allow them to actually get into our point. Let's lock this one down, and Tvik did exactly what he needed to do to hold on to the point. And look at the ultimates, we have 5 available for Rogue. Nox had to use it in that last fight just to keep his teammates alive. And complexity, they're gonna have 3, yes, but they're gonna need that Graviton Surge and that post-bomb combo to really accomplish this point.
Yeah, of course, the Graviton Surge could be negated by a Transcendence. Here comes Shake on attack, and that may have been a wasted Transcendence for complexity as they're down 1 more ultimate, although Joe Meister should have a sound barrier for this next fight. Time ticks ever closer down to 0, and if complexity can't capture 1 or maybe even both, they're in a really, really rough spot as Rogue still has 6 minutes on the clock to capture. So complexity absolutely needs to get this first point. They cannot afford to get stumped here.
And the problem is the 2 minutes that they're going to get allotted if they do capture both points and have more than 0.1 seconds remaining is not even going to happen anymore because they have to capture the point, which is going to take a hell of a long time, and then they have to get to the next point, and it's automatically going to go overtime just because Rogue can delay as long as they possibly can. But we do see 2 kills finally coming through to complexity. This is finally looking good for them.
Whoa, Nicholas gets frozen, but the May does go down first, and this is the engagement that complexity needed. They got 2 kills right off the bat, and that's going to allow them to push in with impunity. They will be able to get this first point, but with only 35 seconds on the clock, very hard pressed to get the next. Let's see if they can ride this momentum, though.
They used all their ultimates just to capture this first point, point A. They have nothing left to capture point B in terms of offensive ultimates. They're going to have Shakes relatively soon, and Nicholas obviously can come up quickly, but Rogue have 3 ultimates to delay, and as long as they throw it into overtime, there's no chance for the complexity to have another attack.
Yeah, if you go into overtime, then you do not get the 2 minutes at the end, and Tvik is playing Genji on the point. AKM brought down to so little health, but the sound barrier will keep him alive. Unko gets the first kill, and that does not bode well for complexity here. They were only able to capture 1 point, as they will probably, likely, most definitely be dropping here. Joe Meister with the orb on his head, surviving for quite some time.
AKM hit like 5 shots in a row, but still didn't get the kill. Yeah. That was ridiculous. But they're gonna close this one out. There's nothing JKW can do about this. He's just trying to delay. And now Rogue gonna be going on attack for a second time. And as long as they capture the 2 points, they will have won.
Yep, that will be the series. That will be the tournament as well for compLexity.
And
Unfortunately for them,
looks stupid.
yeah,
Just saying.
right? Now this compLexity team, though, we have to give it up, man. They have played so well after really a crushing defeat against Reunited. A lot of folks online and here at the venue as well were thinking this team looks down and out, demoralized. But they came back, they beat Cloud9 in a huge upset yesterday. So they're still not out of it yet, but it is gonna have to be one hell of a defense here on Hanamura. They cannot really allow Rogue to get, well, if they allow them to get the first point, they are still just barely in it. They're gonna be able to push this to potentially a tiebreaker to figure out what we're gonna do here on Hanamura. But compLexity, man, they're really gonna wanna try and hold this first point. I mean, 6 minutes though, that's a rough amount of time. Rogue has 6 minutes and 10 seconds.
To me, this says compLexity doesn't want to hold this. I mean, obviously want to hold the first point, yes, but they're not going to use anything gimmicky because they want to have ultimates up, come into the second point. You can almost safely assume that compLexity knows Rogue is going to take the first, so why not play the heroes that you're going to play coming into the second phase anyways, have ult% ready to go so you can stop Rogue from just swiftly moving from point A to point B. Yep. It's going to be a tough hold, though.
Harblu this time, not going to be playing on the Roadhog. We did want to see some big hooks out of him, but instead sticking with Zarya in this fight here, and that makes sense. Of course, we have seen Rogue just go absolutely aggressive on the attack. They just push right on in, almost no finesse whatsoever. Will we see the same thing again? It's going to be a speed boost coming through the gates right here. And of course, Zarya is pretty good at stopping that type of push, or at least gaining a lot of charge. Actually, this time, finally, we're seeing them use a little bit of strategy, but it's just going to be the same thing after all. Here comes Reinforce, but he's a little bit ahead of his team, and he will go down immediately. We do have Nicholas playing Reaper, the mortal enemy of any Winston.
Yeah, and actually that was a nice change for Nicholas too, because he could deal with Reinforce on the Winston. This goes back to what the Death said, that, you know, Reinforce doesn't seem as comfortable on Winston like he does Reinhardt. He doesn't seem to be able to know his limits as well as he does on that big burly Man of Steel. And now he's going to pay the price, but Rogue have more than enough time to go for another attack, so not too much of a worry.
Yeah, obviously Winston has the great benefit of being able to drop the shield and give some extra protection to your team, get right into the face of the enemies, but I don't know, I actually like Reinhardt on the first point on attack. You can just basically move your shield forward, allow your team to at least start whittling down the enemy's Reinhardt shield, but that is not the strategy here for Rogue. They have plenty of time, of course, to get 1 or 2 points and finish this off, as the ultimates are starting to be built up. AKM with the Pulse Bomb. Wiz is going to be looking to get a big Graviton Surge. Here comes the Deadeye. It's mainly a zoning Deadeye, though. I don't really like this. Torque putting himself in a pretty poor position. Now has to build his Deadeye up once again. And this is an interesting push, though, from Rogue, or excuse me, from compLexity, or from Rogue, my bad. Coming from both sides at once, and they will be moving straight on into Vic with the Dragon Blade. Gonna be able to get 3 kills, and this probably has got to be it for Rogue. They're gonna be able to get this first point in just a second, barring some sort of miracle. And Nicholas's Death Blossom could have been that miracle, not able to make it happen. Rogue will get the first point.
And Hardly committed that Graviton Surge at the end as well, which was a slight mistake. That's such a huge ultimate to have available coming into that final point. Or maybe you overestimated how many of his teammates were left alive. But now Rogue, they pretty much committed everything into that push. They do have the Primal Rage coming up, and they do have wins with the Graviton Surge. If they hit a Graviton Surge Pulse Bomb combo, that'll end the game, that'll end the series, and that'll send compLexity back to the States.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a great story for this compLexity team, being able to beat Cloud9, a team that they've beaten before, as Rogue is now pushing on to the point. They're coming from all sides, all angles, up top, down low. AKM all by himself, though, and compLexity will get the first 3 kills, holding on very easily in this engagement.
Wins didn't even have a chance. He got killed immediately before he could even get a Graviton Surge off. And not to mention, he's trying to play extremely careful when you have Hardblue sitting there on the D.Va who can completely mitigate that ultimate. But he's at, from 1 attack, or 1 defense for Hardblue, he's at 90% on his ult. He was able to get so much damage on a Reinforce who was in that Primal Rage form, and he wasn't too threatened. That self-destruct's going to come up big.
And wouldn't you say, Jason, that this is one of the better points for self-destruct? There's not really many places to run or hide. Yeah. It's a huge open environment, so Hardblue could be hitting something huge in just a minute. But of course, as you mentioned, we could see that Graviton Surge and Pulse Bomb combo coming out for Rogue. They're looking for it. Will they be able to get it? Here comes the Graviton Surge and the Pulse Bomb, but it's blocked. There's Zarya's shields, there's Reinhardt's shields in the way. AKM going down as well in that fight. So a couple of wasted ultimates, in fact, 3 for Rogue. tvik might waste his as well, or will he be able to pull a miracle? He gets 3. Will he be able to get a 4th? Is tvik gonna put the team on his back and make this happen here?
Well, this team is going to stop as long as they can. We're certainly going to see a Mei coming out of Shake just to delay even further. It's finally being captured here. It's about almost a 4th of the way through, but tvik can't do much more than this. Or can he? Still has a 200 HP. He's still not being focused on. Reinforcements finally going to be there to help out. The charge is going to land on AKM as he's going to fall, and compLexity might have finally held.
Oh, just barely, but here comes the Transcendence. Going to heal on tvik all the way back up. We do have the Mei in play for compLexity just to delay, but it's going to be 2 kills in a row as Rogue making it happen. There's tvik. He has gone nuts. He hasn't died in 45 seconds on the point. They needed to focus him much, much earlier, but this is the final moment for compLexity. They're going to drop out of the tournament, and Rogue advances to face off against Envious in the semifinals, Jason. Wow.
And at the end there, tvik, we kind of question, is it worth popping that ultimate down here? He already lost 2 people towards the high ground, but he sure as hell made that work with that Dragon Blade, completely shutting the entire compLexity roster down. And you can see they're not too happy, but as we heard before when Huck was talking to Tifa, their manager, they're more than happy. They're happy just to win 1 game alone, and to do it against Cloud9 is phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And compLexity, they did have a huge win just earlier in the tournament. They will sadly be heading home at this point, and for the European fans, though, that means Rogue will move on to the semifinals, and they have a hell of a match to play next, as it's going to be Envious, the #1 seeded team, the #1 ranked team. And man, they are what, 57-0 now? As they were 55-0 yesterday morning, and ended up winning a couple more series.
It's getting on the lines of NIP and CS, where it's 87-0. It's insane, but it's still gonna be a great game. We still have another one coming up though with Fnatic versus Misfits.
Yep, and we're gonna go ahead and throw to Rachel for an interview with the winners.
Thanks so much, guys. We made some improvements for this interview, so Reinforce could be a little bit more comfortable up here. And Reinforce, we got some stuff to talk about on map 1, Gibraltar. What was holding you guys up outside of point 3 for so long? And then how did you guys eventually break that hold?
Well, we had a Tracer and Zarya, and we basically realized we had to take high ground, so we swapped to the Genji and Winston, so we could get at the Zenyatta and McCree, and that basically won us the game.
Yeah, you were able to push right through there and finally claim that point. But then you got to map 2, and it was Hanamura. What did you guys think about that? What was the reaction in your comms?
We were surprised. We were asking, because they didn't say anything in the lobby, that they chose Hanamura, so we were asking, like, seriously, you guys want Hanamura? Because EU is really strong on CP maps, I feel like, so we were really happy with it, and we just had fun playing it.
Now, I've heard some of the casters, some of the analysts talk about the possibility of Mei on defense on Hanamura. How do you guys feel about that? I know you guys didn't go with her. compLexity didn't end up running her either. So what is Mei's place right now?
Mei just doesn't do a lot. There's not a lot of damage. I mean, it's just a wall, and it fits good on the CP map. So we play her occasionally, and Stir was really happy about that when I told him.
And are there any other heroes that you would like to maybe find a way, if you feel really comfortable, to bring into a match just to have a little fun with? I mean, and who's your favorite to mess around on?
I mean, we've cheesed with Bastion a couple of times in officials, and it's really fun, especially when you snowball with it.
All right, well, there won't be much time for fun in your upcoming match. You're going to be facing off against Envious. How do you feel about that matchup?
I don't feel any pressure at all. I mean, all pressure is on them. They have the win streak. They got to win.
Well, that's a great way to go into it. That's a good attitude going in your next match. Thank you so much, Reinforce. And guys, we'll be right back. I'm going to throw it over to our analyst desk for a little bit more commentary.
Thank you very much, Sulzer and Reinforce on this stage. Gentlemen, it's a 2-0 over towards Rogue. Lee, somehow you're on top there in the predictions. He was adamant that it would be Rogue, even if the North American sentiment was still strong here. But guys, let's talk about Hanamura. Let's break it down. First thing we saw, Stir, is that actually compLexity were looking for a Mei where there was none for Rogue.
It's really interesting because compLexity picked this map, but I think from the very beginning, Rogue took control of it. They have played it yesterday. You know that they've practiced it. I almost feel like Rogue practiced Hanamura more than compLexity has. And from the very beginning, you saw Torque climbing up the wall looking for the Mei because we saw Rogue playing this yesterday, but they have a diverse character pool that they've been playing. So the Mei wasn't even there. They were scared of going up against things that didn't exist.
Yeah. And it was even weirder because then they actually broke out the Mei on the second time that they had to go through it.
Yes.
So it was a lot of mind games back and forth.
They have all these different options that they can go to, and compLexity, time and time again, wasn't really mixing it up very much.
I will go back to say it was all, very well played by Tavik as well, because he just sat in the corner. So Torque was like, where's Mei, where's Mei, where's Mei? And he sat there, he didn't even move, just sat crouched in the corner for a good 30, 40 seconds, and it just delayed them so much. Obviously to the point they only took it in overtime.
So obviously we did eventually see Mei come out, and when Mei did come out, she made that impact, of course, where we saw Tavik had a couple moments there as well. Mind games sort of paid off to a certain degree. Let's talk a little bit more about some of these picks that we saw from compLexity as well. You guys were a little bit surprised, you especially, Huck, seeing this defensive tracer come out for so long.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I just don't feel like anybody could stand up to AKM, and you're going to see him right here, right now, getting this Deadeye off. He's doing a great job of zoning, and then actually picks up 4 kills at the end of that before falling. I feel like AKM is probably one of the most solid players this tournament so far. And then once again, you see this Mei wall segmenting half the team. You can see half of them on the other side. The other half are dying, and then they just keep bleeding through. And that's the strength of Mei on this point.
There was even a moment where Harblue put the Graviton Surge down and the wall came up and split them. So the Graviton Surge was wasted. So he literally pulled out such a big ult that takes so long to charge, especially on attack here. So it really worked very well for them.
Yeah, and I just don't feel like compLexity have the depth that they need for a tournament this size. Not only in their map picks, we see them picking Hanamura, which was a questionable choice to begin with. Also on hero picks, they stuck on a Tracer, even on defense. A lot of times they're switching Harblue from Winston to Roadhog during the shuttle phase on Gibraltar. A lot of it just doesn't make sense.
Here's the thing, is that you're seeing compLexity pick Hanamura, and they played on Gibraltar, but what was different between their Gibraltar hold compared to their Hanamura? They feel like the same team strategy all through, but Rogue brought out the Mei. They have these different points that they want to make sure that they get across. They have the different team compositions where compLexity feels they're very limited in what they have. Nicholas,
Shallow.
of course, yeah, staying on Tracer most of the time when we felt that it seemed obvious that they needed a McCree to shoot through the Reinhardt shield. They didn't really have a reason to have a Reinhardt.
So who's firing through the Reinhardt shield then when you have a Tracer instead of a McCree?
Zenyatta? Question mark?
Yeah, that was about all that they had to work through.
And with Unco, maybe it might help you a little bit more, but that's only in a few different situations. Yeah. I mean, Lee, we saw then Tavik go off right at the end of that map there as well, and Genji, pretty nut stuff. I couldn't cue it up for you on replay here, but it's not the first time that he's bailed Rogue out of trouble on a 2CP map.
Yeah, there was a number of times during that map as well he did it. Tavik was looking very good today, which is obviously a concern for Envious, who they're coming up against. He's certainly feeling very confident. Unco also actually looking very good on the Zenyatta as well, starting to chime in with a fair amount of kills of his own. We were talking about it during the game. He's got a very good balance between the damage and the healing combo that he needs to use out.
So let's have a look now at the finished bracket for this group, as all the matches have essentially concluded heading into the semi-finals. That is Group B, all done and dusted, reunited, and Rogue advanced through. Huck, I mean, the biggest surprise in this group?
I mean, Cloud9. Yeah. Cloud9 dropping out so early. That was very surprising, especially since we saw compLexity do so bad in the morning. I'm actually happy with compLexity's performance at the end of this group. I feel like they kind of brought it back. It was close with Rogue. Obviously, they didn't quite make it, but overall, I definitely feel like they were happy with their performance.
Well, gentlemen, we now put the lid back over on Group B. It is done and dusted. We do send compLexity home, and it is 2 European teams that advance from this group. Now, Rogue will be facing up against Envious. Before we go to the break, gentlemen, let's a little bit of a talk about that one and overshadowing for later on today in one of the semis here. Reinforce says that a lot of the pressure is going to be on Envious here as well, as they now make their way through Group A. Fnatic and Misfits still need to decide where that map goes, but do you think that's reasonable to say that that pressure is very much more on Envious than Rogue in this case?
They've certainly got the possibility to create an upset. Rogue are one of those teams. We've said it so many times. Like, sometimes they can be amazing, sometimes they can be terrible.
Right.
They didn't look that great against compLexity in my eyes there. I was expecting, while I said a 2-0, I was expecting them to be much stronger than they showed. Obviously, against Reunited yesterday, they looked very strong. Suddenly it was like, okay, clearly LAN experience coming in, they're looking good. Envious obviously were a bit of a beast yesterday. They've been coming into this one. They still are by and far the favorites coming into this matchup.
I think the weak link, surprisingly for Rogue, I would actually put on Reinforce. We've talked about the inconsistency sometimes. I feel like AKM is one of the most consistent players here today and yesterday. And I think Tavik, obviously showing that again. Uncle doing a great job. I don't know. I just feel like Reinforce, he's going to either make or break that matchup.
He's kind of a firebrand, isn't he? A lot of aggression, a lot of passion there as well. Stir, would you agree there? Would you say that that could be a factor that holds Rogue back in that big match against him?
I think absolutely. He's been going for a lot of big plays, and as Reinhardt, it definitely shows when you don't hit them. We were talking earlier about Stoop, who has constantly gone for these really greedy, aggressive plays on Reinhardt, but he's gotten it every time. And I don't think Reinforce has been exactly on that level. But I don't know if he's going to hold the team back. I don't know if I'd go that far, but they have a lot of work out for him.
Well, of course, for anyone going up against Envy, it will be the same case, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for me, obviously, we were just talking about how consistent AKM has been on the McCree for Rogue. He's going against Taimu. It's going to be a really interesting battle between the two because they are both pretty much the primary players for the teams.
That's right. And I think it was Taimu was more afraid about going up against Shawford during this tournament. That's not even going to be happening here, of course. So AKM will be his opponent later on in the day. But ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go to a quick break. And when we return, we're going to be coming back with our final decider match from Group A. Will it be Fnatic or will it be Misfits to advance? There's only one way to find out. So stick around and see you soon.